Saban Series computer activated. Beginning Alpha command level briefing. For your eyes only. Historical overview. The Earth is dead. As the asteroid fragments landed, the last few survivors departed the solar system, seeking a new home among the stars. World after unsuitable world was rejected, their resources low, their situation desperate. A marginally suitable planet was found. They called the world New Terra. It was cold, dry, nearly airless, but they saw possibilities. In that spirit of optimism, they named their colony Eden. They came with the best of intentions, to build, grow, and thrive. And for a time, they did. Then conflict arose between the colonists, and a splinter colony, Plymouth, was founded. New Terra would be their home, but on what terms? Plymouth wished to live in harmony with the planet, adapting themselves to live in its harsh realm, no matter the cost. Eden planned to tame its new home, to conquer it and terraform it into a new Earth using advanced biotechnology. The two philosophies could not coexist. Talks grew heated as Plymouth learned Eden's secret intention to proceed with their plan. In protest, Plymouth destroyed the last satellite link, condemning them to silence. Only one planet, but two very different worlds. Which will you choose?
Greetings and welcome to Let's Do a Level of Outpost 2 Divided Destiny, an RTS published in 1997 by Sierra and developed by Dynamix. It's not the game I expected to play after I played the original Outpost, but Outpost 2 is more of a spin-off based on the Rebel Outpost event of the original Outpost. And as I said, this game is an RTS with a focus on colony management, wrapped in a story written by J. Stephen York, following Eden and Plymouth colonies as disaster strikes and the fight for survival begins. And for those who are wondering why I sounded exactly the same as what I said in the Eden playthrough, that's because I wrote it down. Alright, Plymouth. What can I say about Plymouth? Sturdy, resilient, idealistic. Those in Eden call us planet huggers, traitors, if they're not feeling very generous. But we see it differently. The luxuries and the dreams of Eden make men soft. They cling too much to the old ideals of a planet that is no longer in existence. And we have no expectations that any planets we visit in the future will be any less harsh than our New Terra. So best humanity prepare for that properly. We are easily, thought less of. But you should never underestimate Plymouth. In any case, let us begin. Now, be forewarned, after the introduction movie is played, I will be reading a chapter of the story. I will be doing this for every mission, and these readings can take a while. So I will be putting a time code into the into the description, doobly-doo, where I will begin doing the actual mission briefing and objectives and start the actual mission, in case you're not interested in the story. But like I said, be forewarned. Right, let's begin.
Plymouth Colony saw itself as peaceful, enlightened, in harmony with its new home world. Unfortunately, nobody told New Terra. The ground heaved and erupted. Long frozen faults began to move. It was impossible, but it was happening. How? They would find answers later, if they lived. Take what you need to survive. Breathe and regroup. Remember, Commander, extinction is not an option.
Yeah, that's indeed a mystery. What in the world is happening to New Terra? But now it's story time. Chapter 1. Meltdown. Emma Burke climbed down the ladder of the Robo Surveyor and felt the muffled crunch of New Terra's porous soil under her rock-suit boots. After 3 days, the air inside her helmet was stale and tasted metallic as she took a breath through her mouth. The vehicle's small passenger cabin was intended for out-and-back day trips, not extended expeditions. Did you feel that? Wu Chen's voice crackled in her helmet speakers. She turned to see the pale green head and shoulders of Wu's rock suit poking out of the surveyor's hatch. Feel what? Another tremor. Just picked it up through the seismograph. Might have been too weak to feel. She frowned. Weak or not, it shouldn't have happened at all. New Terra's crustal plates were nearly locked. Its faults all old, at least in human terms, and inactive. That was part of the reason for that trip. To plant a series of automated seismic stations in order to study the quakes. The other reason, unknown to anyone but Emma, was to search for evidence of Eden's clandestine terraforming experiments. She thought back to her last message from Eden a few weeks before. Though the colonies had officially broken off communications and the comm satellite was disabled, she and her fellow Elder Axe and Moon had maintained a secret link through a weather satellite telemetry channel. His last communication had warned that Eden's leader, Nguyen, had begun weapons development and had unilaterally started a program of biological terraforming. Then, something had gone wrong. The link had been cut off. Axon and Nguyen had clashed on numerous occasions. Was he now a political prisoner, or worse? Had he been killed? There was no way to know, and she could only be certain that things had taken a dark turn at the rival colony. Unfortunately, that put Emma in a difficult situation. Maintaining a secret link with Axon could be considered a treasonous act. At best, the colony's leaders would never trust her again, and she couldn't have that. She had to find a way to alert them to the danger at Eden without showing her own hand. If she could create concern, any kind of concern, there was still an observer satellite in orbit that could be used to spy on Eden, and the rest would come out soon enough. A flash of motion at the edge of her vision caused her to glance up at the ruddy slope of the hillside that loomed over the Surveyor. A rock the size of a fist bounced down the slope and ricocheted off the roof of the vehicle. It was nearly soundless in the thin air, only a soft crack as it hit the Surveyor reaching her external microphone. A cascade of sand and loose pebbles slid down the hillside, and suddenly the ground heaved under her feet. Her eyes widened. "Wu! Get the Surveyor out of here! Get away from the hillsides!" She saw the vehicle surge backward a few meters, the hatch still hanging open, then hesitate. "What about you? Move! I'll take care of myself. We lose the Surveyor and it's a 50-kilometer walk." Even as she said it, she was running away from the slope, looking for some kind of shelter. They'd come half a kilometer up a box canyon between two hills following some strange magnetometer readings. Now that the canyon was a trap, they had to escape. She glanced up and, just as she expected, a shower of boulders, some as big as the Surveyor, were bouncing down the hillside like a dinosaur stampede. She got a glimpse of the Surveyor as it raced out of sight, then began a serpentine turn, dodging the half-rocks that were even now tumbling past. She jumped just in time to avoid having a half-meter rock cut her feet from under her, then angled toward what appeared to be a cleft in the ground rock ahead. Great, she thought. There's a quake, and I'm thinking about climbing into a crack in the ground. There was simply no choice, though. She glanced back in time to see a boulder as big as her residence, rolling over end, directly toward her. The cleft wasn't much more than a meter deep, and narrow enough that her rocksuit didn't want to fit, even as she tried to slide in sideways. She grunted, trying to squirm into the hole. Even as she saw the huge rock bearing down on her, for once, she wished she had worn a regular pressure suit rather than the bulkier, reinforced rock suit. The boulder was only a dozen meters away now, the upper end of it looming over her. Then something snapped, and she slid easily down into the cleft just as a huge rock dropped on her like a hammer. She never would have thought that solid stone could ring, but it did, like a bell. The sound being transmitted by the contact between her helmet and the rock, so loud that she thought it might deafen her. She closed her eyes against the pane, then opened them to darkness. Great Maker, I'm buried alive! Then a low rumble, and a huge rock rolled over one last time, seeking an equilibrium. Though its flank reared right over her head, there was plenty of room for her to escape. She remained motionless for a time, until she was certain the quake was over. Then, to climb out of the cleft. For a moment she thought she was stuck then. With a lurch, the upper part of her suit came free, and she was able to climb onto the lip. She sat there, feet dangling into the hole, waiting for her racing heart to slow. It was only then that she noticed how clean the break was. She ran her gloved fingers over the sharp edge of the break. It lacked the characteristic billion-year-old orange oxidation that covered the rest of the rock surface. Then she bent to examine the blast residue in a vertical line in the cleft wall. This crack wasn't natural. It had been blasted open. An unintelligible voice crackled in her helmet. Wu was coming back for her. Wu, I'm okay. It was unlikely he'd be able to understand her, with a weaker suit transmitter, but there was at least a chance he'd hear enough to know she was still alive. She followed the cleft in the rock a few meters. It narrowed, then abruptly widened. Now that she knew what to look for, she could see the marks made in the surrounding rock by vehicles and machinery, those that hadn't been scoured away by Nuterra's thin but furiously fast windstorms. It was in the wide part of the crack where she found the drill cap hidden. The metal cylinder, painted reddish brown to match the rock, was a stopping metal plug as tall as her waist, but the blunt top of it was almost level with the surface of the rock. Whoever put it here clearly hadn't intended for it to be found. The design was familiar to her, a standard cap for a drill hole created by one of the robo-moles used in mining operations. Notches automatically engraved in the top cap by the drilling machine provided information about the depth of the hole, type of drilling, and other data. A glance at it told her this was a very deep shaft, several kilometers, and nearly straight down. Not at all the kind of hole one would use for mining. She sat down next to the cap to wait for Wu's return. She ran her gloved hand over the cap and the ring of slots around the top designed to vent any underground gases that might be generated. As she did, she saw the dust dancing along the surface of the nearby rock face. Not believing her eyes, she grabbed a fistful of dust from the bottom of the cleft and held it near the slots. Slowly, layer by layer, it was blown away by the outflow of gas. She didn't have a way to test it, but she was certain that testing would reveal oxygen and water vapor, somehow being generated deep in the rocks, possibly by bacterial action. This was the evidence she'd been looking for. This was hard proof of Eden's actions, evidence she could present without creating suspicion. Emma, you're all right? She glanced up to see the surveyor roll around the end of the huge rock. I'm fine, Wu. Get the cameras and sampling gear. We have work to do before we head home. They'd driven all night, as fast as the terrain and their headlights would allow. Emma took the first shift monitoring the autopilot, helping it to make difficult decisions about which path to take, then dozed off in the wee hours of the morning as Boo took over. They'd been unable to raise Plymouth by radio. She tried to reassure Wu that the relay on the top of Mount Goddard might have been taken out by the quake, but judging by the constant tremors their seismic stations were reporting, she wasn't so sure. Boss, wake up! She moaned and blinked the sleep out of her eyes. She sighed. Where are we? About 20 clicks out. Once we come out of the canyon, we might be able to see something. From 20 clicks? I don't think so. He glanced at Wu and didn't like the look of the frown on his boyish face. Wu, what's wrong? He sighed. Just before we entered the canyon, I saw an orange glow on the horizon. I thought it was the sunrise, until I checked the chrono and realized it was 20 minutes early. She shuddered involuntarily, but said nothing. Her attention focused on the forward viewport. The sun was up now, the rocks redder than usual in the harsh morning light, The surveyor topped a rise at the lip of the canyon and whirred to a stop. Wu leaned forward, his eyes wide, his mouth open. Maker, they've blown it up. Those Eden fraggers have blown it up. Emma stared at a huge brownish fountain that towered in the sky in front of them. More a plume than a cloud in thin air. It looked different from the pictures he'd seen in a geology database, but those pictures had been taken in Earth's thick atmosphere. It's not a bomb, Wu. It's a volcano. Or what? I don't know how or why, but pray there's a Plymouth to go back to. Mount Goddard has erupted. Ooh. Well, that's not good. Alright, time for the mission. Commander, a volcanic eruption is imminent and the lava flow will destroy our colony. We must evacuate immediately. All evacuation transport have been loaded to capacity and are ready to leave. Computer projections have generated a list of materials we need to survive. Quickly gather the remaining vehicles and supplies and rendezvous at the mining beacon south-northwest of our colony. Check the objectives for an exact list of what we need. Hurry, Commander. We don't have much time. Alright, so that's all we need. Luckily not very deceptive. Let's get all the vehicles that are already loaded out over here. Now, the volcano is over here. And let's also get the transports going. You know, at least I know what the danger is here. So we can move things along.
Caution. Power levels marginal.
Yeah, I'm not interested in power levels, so... Alright. You're empty. You have something, you have something, you have something. And you have nothing. Alright, so you three can come up.
Structures disabled. Morale is terrible.
And you can also go up here. Let's get everything loaded that we need. It should be a relatively short mission. After all, it's just only the first part. And the volcano hasn't officially erupted yet.
Structures disabled.
Right.
Warning. Volcanic eruption detected.
And there it is. Let's just get this loaded. And there comes the lava.
Structures disabled.
And so goes mighty Plymouth colony. But we have made it. There's nothing else that needs to happen, so just get everything out of the way. And hopefully not get run over by the lava, although lava doesn't tend to move quickly enough to surprise you unless you're completely not paying attention. It's also nice that the lava flow is correctly animated on the map.
Structures disabled.
Right, just wait until the rest of the kits arrive.
Power levels marginal.
Yeah, the lava flow will completely cover the colony because we are in a depression.
Morale is terrible.
Yeah, no surprise there. Right, come on, move a little faster.
Structures disabled.
Just the basic lab kit. Come on. You got to move it, come on. Before even one structure is touched.
You have done well. Our colony is surviving.
Yay! Alright, that's it for this episode. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.